Hey everybody, welcome to the new show that me and Nate are doing where we talk about a current airing show every single week that it comes on the air. We are going to be discussing the series Made in Abyss as opposed to Fate Apocrypha, which we were going to do, but then we found out it was 25 episodes long and we hate it.
Yeah.
And I thought, why not cover a good show? So I went through Mal until I found a show that was good, and man, I found a good show.
You sure did, dude. And to give you full credit, some people are saying just that we like to shit on shows, but you were intending from the start to switch gears to a show that seemed like a good thing, and or seemed like a quality experience. Just to show that that's not what we're out for, right? Right? Am I wrong?
We've been trying to pick the most popular shows for this. But the most popular shows are not good. And this show is not the most popular, but it's at least popular enough that some people are watching it. And I would love to signal boost it because I think a lot of people will like this show. Because there's a lot to like about this show. It's pretty fucking
so much
great.
To like. Yeah, I just you'll have to forgive me. I just finished episode 3 mere moments before we began, and I'm just overwhelmed with one searing emotion. Fuck Fate. Just fuck Fate, you know? That's what I feel more than anything. Like, why was I wasting my life watching Fate when I could have been watching this shit? That's how I feel right now.
I'm just so glad I didn't miss out on this show because there was this is the most excited I've been about an anime
thing right now.
Like almost all year, if not for the fact that I legitimately loved Dragon Maid back in the winter season.
Did you? I can't hear you at all.
This would be like I'm just so impressed I got 2 in the same year. 2 shows I could get legitimately excited about. And there's 3 episodes out of this show at the time of this recording, so we're going to be covering all 3. I watched the first episode twice because I watched it again with my girlfriend who also was blown away. Everyone's blown away. So Nate, do you want to start us off with this?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear you now.
You cut out for a while there, but whatever. Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah. So I didn't really take notes for this, though I did watch the first episode twice. Nate, I don't know if you have notes, but you can start us off because I feel like I could start, and I don't know where to begin with this show.
There's just a lot of layers of goodness. I did take some notes, less as I went on, because I don't really think I need too many detailed notes on the specifics of things. But like the very first shot of this shit, it just like immediately, it's got this like pastel paint art style, and it's just like beautiful, and it immediately just makes me happy to be watching. It's
my
just
God,
such a
within
great
a
vibe.
second.
Yeah, immediately.
Because it opens on like a cliffside, like waterfall, and it feels when I'm going to say it feels like a video game, and I mean that in the most complimentary sense possible.
That was going to be my thesis statement. This is like the opposite kind of video game to like what Fate Apocrypha is like.
Fate Apocrypha felt like a phone game that was free, like a freemium game. You know?
Exactly.
This show feels like a classic RPG handed down, like from the early 90s that you still remember,
the classic
and you still come back to every couple of years and fucking bask in, and you talk about for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
You know?
Let me ask you something, Have you ever played Etrian Odyssey, any of the Etrian Odyssey games?
Just a tad, yes.
Because this show is like exactly the same thing. I mean, sort of. Those games. I mean, I've only played one, and I got most of the way through. But generally, those were about like you explore a dungeon deeper and deeper and deeper, and getting lower down into it. But then, of course, the difference is that there's very little story in those. You kind of discover like a world as you go down, but your characters have no character. And then obviously like you can just come back up at the end, whereas the big difference here is these characters cannot just come back up, which is a very interesting way to go.
I can really see the comparison, especially with the cutesy character designs.
Oh, exactly. I was actually wondering if it's the same character designer, and I was too lazy to answer that question fully.
This is based on a manga, so it's based on the manga designs. What I thought of was like PS1 games, like the gorgeousness of something like a Valkyrie Profile or like a Xenogears or something, like just any classic RPG. Really PS1 era.
Kind of reminds me of like Chrono Trigger, specifically the that one section of the game with that floating town Zeal where Magus is from, like that particular
I didn't
part
make
of
it
the
that
game.
far.
Too bad, dude. You should play it. But yeah, I mean, I think we both get the same vibe of like a classical sort of high fantasy
within
story.
seconds, like within the first shot.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's a lot of anime that can evoke that. But not only did this do it like amazingly well, like with like the first few shots of the show, I was like, oh, if this show is good, then I'm gonna be in heaven. You know, like if I get to look at these backgrounds for a whole show, I am going to be in fucking heaven.
I'm just watching the first couple of clips and like these panning shots of all these beautiful landscapes and these fucking dragonfly motherfuckers, and we haven't even gotten into like the originality of the world. Like they've created an entire world here, an entire ecosystem with all these unique creatures that are just great to look at. Oh, this is
and
all
I gotta hit you with this, Nate. You
Yeah.
want to know why these fucking backgrounds are so good?
Why?
This is a fucking Ghibli artist on this show.
I was thinking the whole time, this feels like Ghibli. I fucking called it in my own brain.
This dude, the guy who's the art director for this, is like a background artist, is like the artist for fucking Spirited Away and Ponyo.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking Nazca, The Valley of the Wind, a lot of the time throughout this. So maybe he didn't actually do that, but similar feel. I totally can feel the love and the passion a guy like that would bring.
Yeah. This show,
it's so good. It's so good.
It was fascinating to me because this show, like, aside from the fact that it's unbelievably fucking beautiful, background art, the animation, the character designs, everything looks incredible. But it also felt like it came out of nowhere because it doesn't like particularly scream of any one studio or style. You know, like usually when a show comes out that has this much amazing animation, it's going to be like a Bones show. And I can tell a Bones show at a glance. You know, like I can immediately tell like
Who
a
did
Bones or a
animate
Madhouse
this?
show.
I didn't even check.
It's by Studio Kinema Citrus.
Never heard of them. Okay.
They've done other really well animated shows, and I mean I can like knowing that I could put it in with I think they did Dot Hack Quantum, which is very similar looking to this show. It's another take on you know, a video game world that's similar.
True.
And don't quote me on that if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the same guys, and I can see the connection between those two. But like, it's a studio that hasn't done a whole ton of shit, and just I was completely blown away by the look of it. I was like, who could have done this? Like, is this new? Like, where did this come from? How is this possible? And then I look it up, and it's like Ghibli and Kinema Citrus, and the director is a guy who I had never heard of, but he's done a ton of shit. He directed Monster and nothing that's quite like this, but he's done a whole lot of shows. He's been around forever. And the writer is Hideyuki Kurata, who is one of my favorite anime writers. He's done lots of really weird out there shit, like Samurai Champloo and Kamichu.
Though of
and
course
Welcome to the Space Show.
I would assume he's adapting, you know, like the manga.
Yeah, he's adapting the manga. Which itself has like a weird, it's got interesting art that's like, I've only seen like a page of it that somebody sent me, but it's kind of like that weird amateurish web manga look.
I checked out a little bit of it, but I actually kind of just skipped to the end just to like see what things are looking like, and it looks pretty pro now. So I actually noticed that the manga's been going since 2012. So this is like a 5-year-old series at this point, but there's only 42 chapters. That immediately concerns me. I'm just I don't know. I need to do more research and find out what the deal is.
Adds up about, right? You know,
yeah, I guess if it's a monthly series. Yeah.
And I've been hearing that it goes in some... Okay, so everyone who's been talking about the series who has read the manga is giving me the impression that it goes in some, like, potentially weird or interesting directions, but no one said if that's in a good or bad way. I'm getting the impression it gets dark from the way people are talking about it.
Yeah.
Which is not surprising, because the show feels like it can get dark.
Absolutely.
And that's I went into this having heard that it had like a darker edge, and so the first episode was kind of terrifying to me. Like the first
with that giant
time
monster,
I
where it
watched
feels like she's really in danger right at the very beginning. Like she talks
this show
about
doesn't
breaking
fuck
her arm.
around.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Yeah, and there's like the characters are super adorable, but there's never this sense of like. I thought that what I was worried I was going to get here was going to be like, oh, it's cutesy, but it's dark and violent, you know?
Yeah.
But it's not like that at all. It's just foreboding. Like, there's not blood splatters or anything. It's not like, it's not grotesque. If anything, it's just so artful that, like, if this got dark, I would be totally down for that, because these people can do dark. I know they can, because they've done everything else so well. The sense of mystery and the sense of scale, the verticality of this setting, that's the most interesting thing about it to me, is the moment when you see the fucking classroom in episode 1.
That was so interesting. See, that's the kind of touch that makes me think these people really gave a fuck, and they designed an entire like different type of classroom just to put these characters in. Like, that's so great. Why don't you describe it for the folks at home?
It almost reminds me of like Gurren Lagann episode 1. You know, with the establishment, like they went all out on creating this underground society.
Very similar to like that. I love they describe in such detail all the ways this society has been formed around this formation of the abyss, this giant fucking pit that's the world's last great mystery, and all this magic shit comes from it. Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
it's so good.
So basically, this show is about a town that surrounds a huge abyssal pit that's not even that long around, but it goes down forever, and it's got like all these layers that have different characteristics, and we've only seen layer 1 so far, which already is magical and mystifying.
And you know what I love immediately about that description? When I first saw the town, I assumed that what they were going for was like there had been some sort of like giant calamity that put a hole in the center of this town, but no, it wasn't like that at all. It's not, because I thought they were going to take that kind of edgy approach to it, like there has been a calamity, humanity is trying to uncover what they have done, or some bullshit like that. But no, some explorers just found this island one day, and then a civilization formed around it totally naturally because it's so dope and interesting and awesome, which I'm totally on board with.
It's essentially a gold rush town because everybody just wants to go there to get to find these artifacts that are extremely valuable that exist all over the abyss, but it's extremely dangerous to go down, and it's almost impossible to even get back up once you go down, which we'll dive into a lot more later in this podcast. But so because I think there's 2 reasons for why the classroom is the way that it is. And first of all, this town, while it's not super tall, there is a sense of verticality to all of it. Like, there's no one-story buildings here because it's a really small island. So, like, the town basically occupies the entire rest of the island other than the abyss. And they've just had to keep building up, which mirrors the fact that the abyss goes down. And, like, they clearly built this classroom not only because they have to use the vertical space of the building, but also to train these kids to be climbers.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
You grow
that's
up...
True.
Yeah, like, the way this school is built, you have to climb ladders to get to your desk, which just ingrains the skill set in these kids that they're going to need every day because they're fucking orphans and all they are there for is to mine shit to fund the orphanage. So, like, basically as soon as they're, like, 10 or 11, they become miners in this incredibly dangerous hell pit because that's the only way they can live.
That's the thing. It's immediately kind of fucked up because we've already seen the scene at the beginning where all these, like, monsters are, like, trying to kill these children, and then they're like, all right, well, get ready to ship out tomorrow, you know, like, that's it for today. You'll be back tomorrow facing the same shit. Like, go do your lesson so that you're better prepared to maybe survive slightly more likely.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, they at least take care of these kids to an extent because they're only allowed to venture down the first floor.
Right.
You know, they're not allowed to go any further, and they probably won't for years. But they go down the first floor, and they're digging for artifacts. But in this first episode, like, at the very beginning, our first encounter with the monster is one that shouldn't be on this floor. It's from a floor down. It's more powerful, but it's up here for some reason. And while in the moment this is like a shock to the character, she's like, "Oh shit, what's that doing up here?" And I was thinking like, "Oh, is this going to be like indicative that something's wrong? Like that there's like an event going on?" But there's not. This is normal. It's normal for sometimes a big monster gets up there and it's just fucking dangerous. And like when they explain this to their teacher, like, "Oh yeah, we almost got eaten by a giant worm," he's like, "Well, you know, be careful. It's a dangerous world." Like, and like, that's how it is.
I'd like to point out, just to remind everybody, it's not like there's like a necessity to go down there. It's not like there's a calamity and like this is the last bastion of hope for humanity.
No,
this is
all
pretty
greed.
much voluntary. It's just greed. Yeah. And it's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get into that in just a second because I can't hold off on talking about it for too long because it's like the core of what's interesting about the show. But like that scene with the worm, like what makes it feel so fucking threatening is not the monster. Like the monster design is fine. Some people had pointed out to me that it looks like a monster from Space Dandy, and it really does. Look like one of the monsters from Space Dandy episode 1. But the way that it eats the kid's backpack, like, it happens so suddenly, and it looks so scared, like, violent, the way it does it, that I immediately was like, oh god, that kid's gonna get eaten. Like, I really thought, like, oh, that kid might get eaten right away because this thing is terrifying, you know?
It kind of it reminded me a little bit of No Face as it was eating that thing a little bit, you know?
Oh, once I was making the Ghibli connection a little bit, like, I mean, not that there's a ton of Ghibli staff on this as far as I know, but, like, the way the thing chases her and moves is a lot like the No Face scene from Spirited Away, for sure. The way it's, like, crashing through the halls and everything.
I love that kind of weightiness about its movement. Yeah. Oh, it's just the best. And I love the way that the girl gets knocked the fuck over and just tumbles over, and the anime, all these little details. Oh, it's great. Yeah, and the way that she responds by acting like, oh, my arm, it could be broken. Yeah. I mean, in this case it isn't, but, like, there's real stakes here.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a real scary scene, but... And okay, so before we even like dive, there's a million things to talk about, but I really have to get this one out there because I think it forms the core of like the attitude of this series, which is that this society is fucked up, and it is in such a way that the characters themselves don't recognize it.
Without
like
a doubt.
it's fucked up to our values, but to them it's not, and it actually gets us supporting characters to do things that are completely wrong. Like, our character's goal, basically, the main character is an orphan. Her mother and father had been abyss travelers who, like, were just down, like, they haven't been back in 10 years. They had their final expedition, they went down, they died in the abyss, as is common to people in this town. And, like, people who die in the abyss are treated like heroes, and, like, everyone looks up to them and worships them. Like, everyone in this town just wants to be abyss divers. Like, all they want is the glory of finding trinkets and, like, dying in the process. Like, dying to bring more knowledge to the world about the abyss.
I was just smiling to myself that whole time about, like, how obvious the manipulation going on here is. It's just, there's no doubt about it. Like, and incidentally, the mom is, they say that she's dead. She's obviously alive. She's the...
It's very possible. Very... probable even, but like, yeah, the whole system of the way this place works is like and it's everywhere. Like, there's no one who's like doubting it, and we're not really meant to doubt it either. Like, this isn't a story about how broken the system is and trying to fight against it. Like, the main character's not someone who recognizes that this is all fucked up and is trying to do something about it. No, she is the most into it out of anybody. She just wants to be an abyss diver, and like she knows that it will kill her. Like, that's part of the pride of it, is like, yeah, if you become a white whistle, which is all she wants, you basically are going to die in the abyss.
That's absolutely true. And in fact, like, another example of that's not discussed in as much depth is just like the status of the slums. Like, it's clearly stated at the end of, I believe it was episode 3, they talk about how there's an entire like slum section, the wharf, where like all the waste from the city just gets dumped, and they just talk about how like Nat, this kid, says like, yeah, I'm from here, like I'm in the orphanage now, so I'm gonna guide you to this thing, but like if I had stayed here, I would have just died from the toxics and all the waste material that gets dumped by the people at the other parts of the city. This is just a matter of fact thing. He's not even like upset about it. He's just that's it. That's how it is in this life. You just fucking die if you're born here and nobody cares.
Yeah. This is a Wild West town. Like, the people who came here because they were greedy. They did not come here and like build a well-structured society. They built a badly run city, and like their kids, because the parents are all insane people, the kids are just raised in a bad environment, and they don't even understand like how bad it is, and that's just the nature of it, you know? It's basically like, this is like a third world, you know, country here that they've built. It's just structured on people who came to hunt for relics to get rich, but like they didn't then come back to the, because this pit was discovered 1,600 years ago, so assumably the city's been here a long time.
1900, I think.
Is that what it was?
I believe it was 1900, but whatever.
Whatever the case, like, it's been here a long time, and like the system has perpetuated itself, and like life in the city is what it is, and like the people digging for stuff aren't even explorers anymore. It's people in the city who, the value of these trinkets is that they sell them to the rest of the world.
Exactly.
So this is basically now just a micronation with an export as its you know, resource, and like I don't know who the fat cat is who's got all the money, but it clearly isn't going into the town.
Yeah,
you know, like
for sure.
which is, as far as we know, mostly slums and orphanages.
Yeah, I mean, like, how telling is it that, like, our main character and our whole cast are orphans of people who died in the fucking pit? Like, that's what all of them are.
Every single one. And, like, there's a great line where the, the instructor woman who's the leader of the orphanage is telling them, like, you're brave parents who all sacrificed themselves, and you're all gonna basically go the same way. And I'm like, what is so noble about charting this abyss that all that's in there is riches?
Well, what's noble for that lady is that clearly this is a government-run institution, and the people who pay taxes, the more parents that die, the more children she gets to take care of, and the larger her budget grows. So that's her incentive right there, folks.
Well, the orphanage is entirely funded by the trinkets the kids find, isn't it?
Oh,
like that was the impression I got.
The more manpower she gets, the more people die, the more children there are for her to abuse to acquire more currency.
So yeah, this system is really, it's interesting in that it's so broken and that's just the way it is. It's, again, not a show about, like, breaking that system or whatever. That's just the nature of this world. It's just the backdrop for the story of this kid and her robot friend going into the abyss. And, like, that's so cool to me that they built the society and then it's not about the society. Which I feel like any other show would have done.
That's like the mark of a well-crafted narrative. That's exactly what I look for. Like it's just like The Village in Gurren Lagann. It's all there logically. It makes sense. It's not the focus of the story by any means, but it's one piece of the puzzle and reflects the world that it's part of and the environment that our characters are in, and helps us learn about them and understand their journey. And that's exactly what they've done here. And I'm super excited about it. It's just great. Even though we're basically past it at this point. Like, we're pretty much done with it.
Yeah, and I'm really glad we watched 3 whole episodes of this to start with, because we basically got the whole opening act of this story before it jumps into the cave. And it's interesting to compare it against Gurren Lagann too, because in interviews, Imaishi has said that, like, they did an extreme level of planning for the underground village, and they had to throw most of it out because they wanted to get them out of there by the end of episode 1.
Right.
So like they had like 3 episodes of material
so good that
got
turned
compressed
out that way. Yeah, yeah.
But this show did take the whole 3 episodes, and there was part of me that was like kind of, I knew that where this was going. Like, it's obvious that she's going to go down into the abyss from the very beginning. Like, that's what this show's going to be about, is this girl and this robot going down. And they took 3 whole episodes to get there. So on some level, I was getting a little impatient. But at the same time, I'm glad they did it. I'm glad that my patience was challenged, because I got to learn so much about the town. And it's such a good setting that I wanted to, I
definitely agree. Plus, I had a good chance to connect with a bunch of the characters. Like I really got to know Reg. And
that was such a good move to montage in episode 2.
Yeah,
because
for sure.
In any other story like this, it would have been the girl finds... Okay, so in episode 1, she finds this robot boy down in the depths. He saves her from a monster by firing this huge laser, but it knocks him out and he loses his memories.
Right.
So she finds him, she wakes him up, and he has amnesia and no real personality. And in any other show, they would have just jumped right into the pit. She would have been like, oh, I've got this robot guy, I'm going down. This show instead has 2 whole months pass with this kid, like the robot kid, integrating himself into the orphanage.
Yeah.
And now he has, like, a personality and things he cares about. Like, I was really worried in episode 1 that, like, with him being one of the main characters, that he seemed really boring. He has amnesia. There's nothing to go on there. But then, like, by the end of episode 3, he's a fully fleshed out character, because he's developed all these relationships and friendships and learned things about himself,
in fact, he's, like, more concerned with saying goodbye to his new friends than Rico was, which I just love that. He's such an endearing guy, and the way that, like, you can tell all the ways that he's, like, into the girl. There's just those subtle little moments where he gets embarrassed. I mean, he just outright says it, but he's a real boy. He's a real good boy.
You just reminded me of one of my favorite things. So this show, it's okay, the main characters are all little kids.
Yeah.
And, like, this show doesn't have an ounce of fan service, but it is not at all afraid of, like being dirty. You know, like
are you talking about the naked whipping scenes or whatever? Because those are pretty fucking weird.
yeah. So
pretty out of fucking left field with that shit.
One of the first lines in the show in episode 1, she says like she had stolen something basically, or she pocketed something on her trip.
Yeah.
And she says, "I don't want to be strung up naked again."
Yeah.
And I was like, what? You know, like it was a weird moment. But then later in episode 2, we actually see her strung up naked.
She's literally tied up bondage style, naked, suspended in the air. It's fucked. And what about like the fact that Rico's room is a repurposed torture chamber? Like what the fuck is that about?
An execution room.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
Yeah, her room's a repurposed execution chamber. She in the process of trying to turn on the robot, which, oh my god, this is so brilliant that they don't show any of this. They don't show her trying to turn on the robot until they succeed. But then over the course of the next like half an episode, we find out what all the things that she tried to do to wake him up.
I love that.
She fed him hot coals. She drilled onto his arm, and she not only did she thoroughly examine his body to the point that she has a full grasp of his penis, but she also shoved a ruler up his ass to see how his ass works, and it broke in his ass, and one of the other kids had to fish it out. And this is all just said like matter-of-factly in episode 2. Like, the way that she brushes over it, because, like, it's so clear that Rico really thinks of him as a robot. Like, oh, he is just a robot. He's not human. I can do whatever I want to him. He's just a machine. But then she also, like, really likes him and, like, is super quick to, like, hug him and be all affectionate and call him her friend. And it's, like, it's this really interesting dynamic that, like, she's all over him because she simultaneously like perceives him as a friend and a machine. And I wonder how that will change if once they like if it becomes apparent that he has feelings for her. I wonder if it will change the way she interacts with him.
Well, you know, that to be fair, that was like the very first interaction before he had woken up or like become a real character to her, since she did all that fucked up shit. So I think at that point she really just saw him as like a fancy robot boy. And, you know, once he started getting up and saying words and doing things.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure she wouldn't shove a ruler up his ass again now that he's alive. But
That's
like,
what I'm getting
but
at.
she explained all that stuff to him very like matter-of-factly. Like she was not embarrassed to tell him that she had shoved a ruler up his ass.
I like that.
And like,
I like that a lot.
and you know, I love the way that there's no hesitation from her to like just give him a big hug all the time. And like they're very like she's very clingy to him, and it's fucking adorable. I mean, she's the cutest character ever, and the way that she acts with him is the cutest shit. My favorite shot in this whole show so far is in episode 1. There's a part where he says, "Grab onto me," and she just like jumps right on him. And the way the shot transitions is perfect because she jumps from the left side of the screen to the right, and then it like snap cuts to him turning around and shooting his arm, and the flow is on. It's impeccable. It's so good.
That was a fantastic shot. That dare I say that felt romantic. It felt romantic levels. Yeah.
Like it was not just that she threw himself onto him and then he does this really masculine cool thing like turning around just shooting his hand out and like running away with this girl, you know, and it was beautiful. That shot fucking sparked a fire in me.
Her lack of self-consciousness about latching onto him and just being such an open-hearted person and open-minded person. Oh, it's so endearing. It's so refreshing. Fuck fate.
Yeah, and we've got this other kid who in episode 1 he almost gets eaten by the worm. She saves him.
Oh yes, Nat, the two of them man after my own heart.
Yeah, Nat, almost Nate.
Yep.
So Nat is like he's obviously her close friend,
and of course he gets cucked by these goddamn alpha males stealing his girl all the time. Fuck this shit, dude.
Yeah, well that's what's so great about it. Like this kid, he obviously like he's not a stick in the mud, and I'm glad for that.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Like he is opposed. The main conflict at the end of episode 2 and start of episode 3, or really all of episode 3, is that he doesn't think she should go because it's obviously extremely dangerous. She will die.
Yeah,
like there's no question in his mind that she's not coming back. Even she doesn't think she's likely to come back, but she feels the need to try. And she's impatient and can't wait 10 years till she's good.
We can talk about more of this later when we get to the curse, but like she is not coming back. This is like decided. She is prepared to spend the rest of her life down there in pursuit of this goal.
And that's interesting too because like even though this is all hubris. She's a 12-year-old. Like she should not be she's not going to make it down there, like, in all likelihood, although she has the robot friend, but she was going to do it even without him. But, like, she is fully aware of the consequences. Like, she doesn't even expect to survive this. She's just like, I have to do it. Like, it's all I want to do. And it's like, wow. Like, you know...
I love it. I love that about characters. She's got commitment, like my hero John Adams is all about. Yes.
Yeah. So we've got Nat, who's like, don't go, you know, he doesn't want her to go, but like, it's not because he's some like, because in a lesser show, this character would have just been like the bitchy guy, you know, like I watched the first 4 episodes of Magic Knight Rayer 3 recently for a video, and there's one character who's like literally her whole personality is she's the naysayer. All she does is whine and bitch about everything they're gonna do. Like, oh, I want to get back to Tokyo. I hate being in this fantasy world. Like Nat, he's a troublemaker like her, just not like she's crossed a line here. And there's like a moment where like she says, "I'm going down there," and he like stands up and he's like, we have to stop here. Like this has gone too far. And he says, you know, some cruel things. Like he says, your mother's not alive. Like there's no chance she's alive down there.
And I kind of feel like there's a complexity to that character, and I think that a lot of that came from. Like, clearly at the end when they separated, he wanted to say, like, I love you.
I love you,
like, that's what he was getting to. But he didn't do it because he didn't want to hold her back. He wanted to set her free. Such a great guy. And, like, I feel like that was really... I mean, me too. It's such a heroic thing to do. It's such a selfless thing to do. Love this guy. And the way... Like, his reluctance, I think, clearly comes from, like, he knows that she's got to do this shit. But but, you know, like, he's got his own feelings about it, and he has to get over them and realize, she's got to do her own thing.
I mean,
that's a human moment.
I think she knew. Like, from the way... Like, the way he gets cut off is that she's already bawling in tears with snot running down her face. She's like, look, she was like, you know, we'll always be connected by the abyss at least. Like, she's basically telling him, like, I know what you want to say, but, like, you know, just carry me in your heart, buddy. I'm not coming back.
I hear you on that. I think she's a little bit more naive of a character, and that's just her expressing her intense friendship emotions. And she's like, she thinks she's viewing it through that lens. But whatever. You know, it doesn't matter either way.
Close enough.
Yeah.
And yeah, Robot Boy's definitely gonna cuck that guy.
No doubt, my dude.
He's clearly got feelings for her too.
He cucked her the second she grabbed onto him.
And this show has made damn sure to make sure that we are aware that he has a dick. Like a functioning penis. This show has gone... I think that's why they did it. I think they went out of their way to tell us he had a functioning penis so that we would know that, like, he can fuck her. Like, they can be a thing.
I'm legitimately happy about it, you know? Like, I'm just saying, they're leaving their options open here. That's all I'm saying.
I'm also wondering if he can... I wonder if he can age, because they also have a scene where he's talking to the baby, and the baby's jealous of his the fact that he can get a whistle soon, and he's like, well, you know, you can't age, or like, I won't ever age, but you'll grow up one day. But he doesn't really know that. Like, he doesn't know anything about himself, so maybe he can age.
I wanted to bring that up as part of a larger point about these characters, because that was probably my favorite piece of dialogue, specifically from these couple of episodes. And it's these characters, despite being children, are so matter of fact and so set on identifying problems and solving them in like a calculated, meticulous way. They don't fuck around. They don't waste their time or waste their lives. Like, and during that scene, I just want to emphasize it. Like, so they're standing next to each other, and the little baby is looking at the bell of the Robo Boy, and he's like, okay, well, you know, right now we're on the same level, but in a couple days you're going to get to go down. I'm so jealous of you. Wham, a little baby. And the guy, and he just says like, well, you know, one day you're going to grow up. I'm not going to, so don't be too upset. Don't be too envious of me. At least you get to be an adult one day. And this little baby just looks at him and says, you know, that is a fair point. Understood.
Yeah.
I accept your point there.
I love
that makes me feel better.
Dude.
And that baby is such a bro, because the first thing he does, I think he's gonna, oh, here's the baby character. But they're trying to sneak the robot back into the house, and he helps them like a real fucking dude. He just goes along with their charade. He distracts the matron so they can get him inside. Like, I thought I was going to hate that character, but he was actually a total bro, and I have nothing but good things to say about him.
Is it possible to sell you on a character faster than that kid?
I don't think so.
Like, really both kids, because, like, the first people we meet are Nat and, what's her name, Rico?
Rico, yeah.
Nat and Rico, and like they're doing the plot stuff, and they find Robot Boy. They come to the surface. We meet this glasses kid, and like the very first interaction with the glasses kid and the baby is the two of them like doing this awesome routine to get them into the orphanage. Instantly, both cool characters.
I know, they're so
and
good.
It's because not only did they help our protagonists, who we already love because the girl's so fucking fun, not only did they help our protagonists, but they did it in this, like, creative way. Like, basically what they do is he tells the baby to drop the book off the balcony and then cry as though he accidentally dropped it so that the headmaster would come over, which is a clever ploy, and... like, it got me, you know, it hit me on that, like, oh, clever level, and also hit me on the I love everything level.
Yeah,
you know?
Agreed.
Oh, so good. And also just the way that this show, the way the show does exposition is excellent, in my opinion. Because the first episode, like, again, the very first scene is the two main characters, Rico and Nat.
Oh, Nat, yeah.
No, Rico and Nat are descending into the abyss at the very beginning of episode 1. They're, like, throwing a rope down and they're climbing down. So, okay, like, this show knows that you know from the title alone that it's gonna be about going into an abyss.
Right.
Like, you look at any of the artwork, you look at any of the production, you hear the title, you know it's a show about descending into an abyss.
I actually didn't look at any of it. But if I had, I would have known. Oh, Made in Abyss? I didn't know what that fucking meant. But
well, the first thing we see the characters doing is climbing downhill, and one of the characters mentions, like, oh, we're at the 1,000 foot depth. And like immediately I knew, okay, this is a multi-layered abyss where depending on how cool you are, you get to go further down. Like I knew that just from their casual dialogue, which didn't feel like exposition. You know, they're just having a conversation about their dig. And like each line is just like a line they would naturally be saying in that situation, but it gave me so much information about the world before I had seen anything, you know?
Very
and
true.
like there's a scene of them just like seeing the gondolas that go down, and they're like, oh, it's the really nice gondolas, and she's like, oh, I wish I can go down there one day, because obviously you have to be a badass to take this thing. Like, it's just in like a minute we have this very clear picture of what this world is, so that when it jumps into giant worm attack like 1 minute in, we already know like what the characters are doing, what this like general setup is, like what it means that the worm is from a layer down. Like we already get that there's layers because of the way they've been talking, you know, and we love the girl because she's animated so beautifully that she's a lot of fun to watch. And so like it just gives you so much information with so little explanation. And then even when the show does get into explanations, it has all these different varied ways of doing it. At the end of episode 1, there's a narrator, which is the voice actress of the mom of the main character girl, who, by the way, is Maya Sakamoto, the same voice actress who played Joan of Arc in Fate Apocrypha. She sounded like shit as Joan of Arc, and she sounds perfectly fine in this show. But she's the narrator voice, and I like narrators. I think narrators are something that anime is missing a lot now, because sometimes you do just need an information dump about the background setup, but they did it at a perfect moment, which is right after this gorgeous reveal of the town. That's like this spellbinding moment where you're like, oh, this place is cool.
You know, it's all part of the same equation, because the town is the abyss, and to reveal it all in this way, with this narration giving the dramatic air to it all, like I didn't have an understanding of like what this town really was until this point. And revealing it now after I'm already invested in the town and these characters and what the fuck their lives are gonna be. It's the best. Like, this is how exposition does things right. You get people invested, and then you give them like a bunch of juicy shit all at once like this, and it's fucking dope.
Because like when you get a big exposition dump before, like if they had done the exposition dump before they showed you the town, you'd be like kind of half paying attention, not really caring, and then like only if you saw the show again would you really pay attention. This gets you at a moment where your attention is heightened because you're looking at this gorgeous scenery and you're like taking it all in, and then they just start explaining stuff to you and you're like, tell me more. I want to know what this thing is. This thing looks crazy, you know? And then in episodes 2 and 3, there's some exposition parts, but they'll do like, the character will like literally be reading a book, and it'll have like a different art style because we're seeing the illustrations in the book, or like, and all the illustrations look really cool.
Oh, I love them.
The whole concept, like when they show the map of the abyss, where it's like, all the different layers going down and how it just kind of tapers at the bottom where they don't know what's past
I love that
and,
map
like,
so fucking much.
so
I want to print out, I want to put it on my wall, I want to study it for days and just try to unravel all them. I'm just so 120% on board with the exploring the abyss thing. It's all I want to know is what the fuck's down there. I want to be in there, going with Rico and the gang and figure out what the fuck's going on there. I'm so hyped for this shit.
It's beautiful.
It is.
Yeah, like you said, hype. I'm like the most hype I've been for a show in so long. I want to know everything because it's so mysterious. Like, again, the plot could really go anywhere, and like, even if this show honestly turned to complete shit, like, I would be excited to see how it would turn to shit.
I certainly am too. There's some ways.
Already, like, there's clearly a third main character we haven't even met yet.
Right.
This like furry bunny girl who's in the ED and on some of the art online.
Yeah.
Who looks awesome. Can't wait to know what she's about. She's like obviously a monster person who wouldn't exist on the surface. Do they know about her? Do they know about demi-humans in this world? What's that gonna be? You know? What could possibly be lurking? Like, when we look at the map, you can see like layer 3 is like an ice world or something.
It's like the sheer cliff one or something. Yeah.
And they've been subtly hinting at us like different things we want to know. Like, oh, we know there's an upside down forest. Like, they haven't shown any of it, but I want to know where it is. There's this one shot in the OP of like this super green area, like there's like a house in this greenery and it looks so cool, and I was like, take me there, take me, please take me, I need to be there, you know.
It's so awesome. I don't know, man. I could just fucking cool. I'm so excited to learn everything about this. Like, I'll consider this show a success. Okay, actually, you know what, to be fair, like, this is my concern. Like, as soon as I finished episode 1, I went and checked out the manga because I was hoping so intensely that the manga was done and that there was an end to the story. It is not done. It is not done.
Yeah. It's not done, and the anime's only planned for 13 episodes.
Right.
But
so we are not getting to the bottom here.
Hopefully, this is a show that will have sequels. The thing is, they're clearly taking their time. Like, if this is only going to be 13 episodes, if they wanted to, like, try to make up their own ending or something, or, like, you know, try to condense the story down, they would not have taken 3 whole episodes to get into that fucking pit. It just wouldn't have happened.
They must be making this long-haul bet, you know, they're hoping this shit gets adapted, or it gets popular enough to continue the adaptation.
I hope so, too, because it's so good and so beautiful, and I'd love it to just run concurrent with the manga. Like, I mean, maybe they can only do 13 at a time because they're like, well, we'll catch up to the manga immediately if we do 26, so let's just, you know, let's do 13, and then maybe next year we'll do 13, see where the manga goes. Again, I've heard, like, people have told me that the manga has kind of an, or I've gotten the impression, just from, like, random tweets that I've seen, that it has, like, an arc structure, so there'll be some arcs that maybe we'll go through.
If they're done layer by layer, that sounds totally appropriate. I just hope, you know, I just hope that they keep a consistent flow to it. Like, the only thing that concerns me, I don't want them to get stuck fucking around. I want there to be continual progress as they make their way through. And I don't mind if things take, like, to be honest, this feels a little bit like One Piece, only there's like a set number of islands to visit, there's like a set number of layers, and there will be an arc on each of them. And that sounds fascinating, and I want that real bad. Wouldn't it be cool? What if there were like 7 seasons of this shit, 1 per layer or something like that, and each one was like fleshed out? I
think this could go like exactly 50 episodes at the pace it's going and be perfectly fine, depending on how many characters there are, because like the impression I'm getting, like, it's really like just these 3 characters that we're seeing is like because the opening episodes we've had a bunch of characters, but most of those are not going to be there anymore. So we've really just got 2 characters who are going down, and they'll probably meet Bunny Girl before too long, but I don't know if they ever meet other people in this abyss. So like depending on how sparse the abyss is, how much of it is like just monsters or realizing the mystery of each layer, it's
Yeah, at
hard
this
to have an
point-
interesting conflict without a bunch of characters.
At this point, you're absolutely right. And at this point,
There's also other abyss divers they could run into. Like, there's hundreds
True.
of people plumbing this thing. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities for character run-ins.
And you know what? Like my One Piece comparison is probably not quite a reasonable thing to even suspect, because like if there were civilizations down there, people would probably know and be talking about it. It's mostly treated as like a forbidden forest.
If
type
it's
thing.
past, like, there could easily be like a village on layer 4 or something, because it's like almost impossible to get up from certain layers. Like, what if it turns out there's a bunch of white whistles living on layer 5 and they just won't go up because they know they'll die?
That's totally legit. Yeah, I just like don't think there's going to be like an intense political structure to each layer in the way you might see in a One Piece. But yeah. God damn, I want to see it all.
There's so many possibilities. Like they've done such a good job of establishing reasons that we wouldn't know what's down there. Like, that our main characters wouldn't know what's down there. Like, they reassured us that, like, the balloons, barely any of them make it up to the surface from a certain depth, which makes sense. Like, they're gonna run into monsters on the way up.
Absolutely.
Like, these balloons are gonna get stuck on something. But, like, we only know what we know because, like, if a white whistle sends it up, it's considered truth. If anybody else sends it up, it's considered a rumor, like if they send it from a lower level. So there might be some of these rumors might be true. There's unbelievable amounts we can just not know about what's down there, because not enough people have gone down there, I
really appreciate that they did that. That's really good.
Yeah, like, anything beyond a certain layer of this abyss, literally no one really knows. And, like, even the few people who have made it down to, like, layer 5, the black whistles or whatever, like, who knows how much of it they've actually charted. Maybe most of them just, like, kind of stepped in, saw a few things, and went back up,
Yeah,
like,
man.
This abyss is giant, and it seems to expand outward as it goes down. So, yeah, it could be anything. I'm fucking ecstatic about it.
Me too. Well, okay, so maybe we should shift gears to talking about, like, sort of the events as they were, like, throughout the second and third episodes, because those were definitely, like, slower. Oh, you know what we should talk about? We should talk about the scene of Liza's whistle coming to the surface, and her, her getting the letter, although I think that happens in episode 3. But I loved...
It's end of episode 2, start of episode 3,
Yeah, okay, you're absolutely right. So they do the whole thing where they, obviously our main character's mother was always going to be important. So she is, in fact, the legendary white whistle guy, Liza the Annihilator, which is like the most badass name you could possially imagine.
I just realized, like, you said, oh, there's probably not going to be, like, epic political conflicts, but there is one, because Liza's backstory is that there's foreigners who come to this abyss to try to raid it, and, like, they fight with the locals. So, like, Liza apparently, like, blew back she single-handedly fought back the invading explorers, and that's why she's famous and treated as a hero.
Right.
These are going to come back. These other country people, they're gonna come back and they're gonna be bad guys. Like, that's gotta happen.
You're definitely right about that. Fuck, man. I don't even know where to go with this. I love the fucking puppet show where the dude was showing off. I thought that was a really cool way to show this information, to reveal it to us. And I just love that guy's design. That's such like he reminded me a little bit of Yubaba from fucking Spirited Away. Just like the bizarreness of his face and his huge nose.
What's the dude's name from Princess Tutu?
Clawhauser? No, that's the big O guy.
Ziegelmeyer? Something like that?
Yeah, like Siegmeyer. Something like that. Siegelmeyer. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, and, he's doing a puppet show, just like that guy. Shout out to Princess Tutu, greatest anime ever made. And of course, then we get the obligatory, like, possible superpower / a handicap dump about our character, who is, in fact, cursed by the curse of the abyss because she was born down there. And she's got her...
What a fucking badass, like, birth story.
Yeah.
That she, like, this whole episode is building up this idea that like going into the abyss is like this really dangerous thing that when you like, or coming out of it rather, is the most dangerous part, that like it basically ruins your life and kills you. And it's like, oh yeah, by the way, your mom like birthed you deep into the abyss, and like they had you in a curse, like a curse protection object thing that they had to fucking haul up, and you went blind or something as a result, or your eyes only work if we have crystal sunglasses for some reason. So obviously she's got some kind of power, which
Of course.
which is important because, like, if not for her having something, we would not be able to believe there's any chance she's coming out of here. With
Because
this, we at
she's
least
a
have, like, a
12-year-old.
glimmer of hope. You know?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And, like, they're really leaving the door open for, because she was born down there, who knows, like, what she went through on her way up or what people she met. You know, maybe there'll be some characters who saw her when she was a baby that she'll be able to befriend. You know, they're leaving all that kind of stuff open. So, looking forward to seeing where they fucking go with it. And, you know, I bet as she gets down into the civilizations in the pit, the fact that her mother is this legendary person could either make people really like her or really hate her. And
That's
there's all
a good
kind of
point.
ways the political dynamics could go.
Certainly the people from those other countries aren't going to be happy about it.
You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of Renton's dad from Eureka 7. That he was this, like, legendary savior guy who did something I can't remember.
Eureka 7 comparison is very apt here, and that's why I kind of said 50 episodes, because I get a sense of similarity, though. The only like I said, it depends on how many characters there are, because Eureka 7 had a massive cast, and that's kind of what carried it through 50 whole episodes. Though this show could easily spend more time like being slow paced. Like, I can stare at these backgrounds all fucking day.
Yeah.
If they want to make a whole episode of characters walking across bridges or something, I'm totally down for that. You know?
Oh God, like this is the sort of series where like we can get down to like a city of bridges somewhere in the abyss, and it'll be like so many excuses for like new beautiful landscapes and shit. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Hey, you know what else I love about this? I think it's in episode 2, or maybe it's 3. I can't remember. But where like they really emphasize the labor of going down to the abyss and coming back up, and just doing relic retrievals in general. We see multiple times characters like struggling under the weight of these burdens, and really they don't like cut past that shit. We see them like just like breaking their backs under all this shit. And like there's a whole point made about how fucking heavy the object that was protecting Rico when she was a baby was, and how they had to abandon like all their other shit, including the lives of the people they were with, just for her and one other dude who I'm sure will be an important character who we probably haven't met yet, to like carry this little baby back up to the surface. And just like, and in the fact, I think it's in the 3rd episode where we see that other kid, where we see Nat, like just struggling from just one layer down, just on like a little baby expedition, already getting fucked up by the curse of the abyss. And I don't know if we want to talk about that specifically more now, because that is a very interesting facet of this story. And because it so clearly is designed to funnel our characters continually down and like just increase the cost of deciding to turn around more and more as they go.
There's so much stuff in this story that like is there to facilitate the story, but is also awesome.
Yeah, like this adds a question at all times of like, okay, we're going to press on, but do we want to turn back? Have we hit the point where it makes more sense to turn back other than face certain death? Because up till they get to layer like 5 or whatever it is, that's always a possibility. And, you know, just when they get to that point, that's when they hit the wall of no return. Yeah. But, like, I'm wondering how much of a relevant thing that's going to be in the story as we go forward. Because, like, as I was saying, clearly it's all designed to facilitate us going continually down. But there's been so many examples shown of characters getting fucked up by this, that it's hard for me to believe that this won't be a relevant thing. As, like, I don't know, maybe the character does, like, small amounts of incline to, like, do something up at a higher layer or something.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. But I'm really interested to see how it gets.
I don't know at what points you get the effects. Right. You know, like what how far up do you have to go before it affects you? I don't really know.
But they were very clear to illustrate like exactly what ailments you can expect to experience when you hit certain layers, including also, I think they said at level 6 you can no longer be human. You can just change. Yeah. And what the fuck does that mean? I have no idea. Pretty excited to see it though.
Okay, here's something that is so subtle up to this point that I forgot about it, and I assume this will not become relevant for a very long time, but they're planting the fucking seeds, because this this author clearly has thought this story all the way through. Like, otherwise there's no reason there'd be so much fucking foreshadowing. The bodies in prayer
Oh, that was
That-
like my favorite detail. Yeah.
And like, okay, so at first there's these dead bodies that are all in prayer, and at first I was thinking this might be like a part of adventurer culture because
Right.
like Rico does like a prayer in response to it when she sees it, but then fucking Nat explains that these are from the ancient civilization 2,000 years ago. So he's saying that these are from before they even found the abyss.
Right.
Is when these things. So as long as there's been abyss travelers, they've just been seeing these guys. What are they? Where did they come from? Is there a civilization in the abyss that these guys come from? You know,
It's hard to say, man. I
what
don't
if
know.
the bottom layer is a secret kingdom or some shit? We have no idea. You know?
I suspect
and I
some-
know there's
Yeah, yeah.
probably I am aware that some of the things we're saying could have already been disproven in the manga.
Sure.
Please don't tell us. I don't want to know.
Yeah, I don't want to know shit. I want to experience the ride they're taking me on because it's.
In
it's
fact,
so
I
good.
might legitimately not read the comments on this video just to not get spoiled. Like, why do I need to know
Yeah.
the comments on this? I really don't. I don't want to get spoiled for this show. Like, I'm too excited at the prospect of it. Like, even if it turns out to be like a totally weird left field disappointment,
Yeah.
I want to know firsthand. You
Me
know?
too, and I'd like to be surprised by that too, and be able to flip my shit when I get to
Mm-hmm.
that point.
'Cause I'm too emotionally invested already.
Yeah, me too.
Dude, the fucking music in this show is phenomenal. I have
Yeah.
not wanted a soundtrack this badly in quite some time. And like, I'm not an anime soundtrack guy. I'm not the kind of guy who like downloads all the soundtracks I hear.
Uh-huh.
It's once in a blue moon that I want one. And this fucking show, the first episode insert song,
That montage
like,
song.
oh,
I
that
got
song is
chills. I got
awesome.
fucking chills. And like that's when the reveal of the city happens. Such a powerful moment. That's when I knew I mean actually I had already fallen in love with the show based on the fight at the beginning, but it was great too. It's all great.
dude, that song fucking touched my dick. Like,
Yeah.
that, okay,
Fuck me
the
up, dude.
Interesting fact, because the lyrics were in English and like clearly a native English speaker. The
Yeah.
guy who does the music for this is an Australian dude who's done like some video game soundtracks and like a few other anime things. I've never heard any of his other stuff before, but like, yeah, it's like this like very modern R&B song, which is an interesting choice for like a high fantasy show. Well, not even high fantasy, but a fantasy show
Yeah,
nonetheless. To have this very modern sounding song, but it was gorgeous, and I love the song. And like my first time through episode 1, I mostly noticed the insert songs, and I was very disappointed that it was not the OP.
Me too.
Like,
Me too,
I really
yeah.
wanted that to actually be the OP, because there hasn't been any other good OPs I've heard in a while. Like none that have gotten me really fucking by the balls, but. Nonetheless, the insert songs are great, and then when I rewatched episode 1, I paid more attention to just the regular soundtrack music, and it's also really solid. Like, all the music's great in this show. The sound design is good, and just every shot in this show is fucking cool. The shot when
wrong.
the worm's like about to eat her, and then you just see this enormous burst of light, and you don't even know what it is. It's just like this huge explosion of colors, and then all you see is like all the trees like smoldering and shit, and it's like,
I
whoa,
love that. I love
what
that.
did that? You know, I was expecting there to be like a sniper or something. Like, you really don't know what it is until she finds the robot boy, you know. And there's this great shot because she kind of gets like. She's really in the moment after that happens. Like, she's just seen the laser beam, and she's like, oh, I think someone must have defended me. And then she finds the robot kid, and she's, like, touching his body, and she's like, oh, it's a robot. She gets all excited.
Dude, I
And then,
love
like,
that her reaction to seeing that he isn't breathing is like, well, I gotta do CPR. Here I go, trying to save a
Right.
life. And then she's like, wait, no. Oh, it's so good. So
Yeah,
these
he's a
people, these
robot.
characters recognize problems, and they're out to solve them. They're just
Yeah.
so cause effect. I love them all. They're not little pansy bitches. They're here to do
But-
shit.
She sees that he's a robot, she gets all excited, and then there's this shot where, like, the wind picks up, and she hears, like, a howl on the wind.
Yeah.
And then the camera just pans to this, like, beautiful panning shot of the sky, and it's like she's remembering where she is. You know, like she's gotten so excited about the robot that she has to take a step back when she hears that noise and like take in the surroundings, and like the camera like reminds us, right, we are in the abyss. We need to get out of here before space worms come back, you know. And then she picks
Yeah.
up the guy and like, oh right, my friend is bleeding from the head on a cliff somewhere. I should go do something about that. So
Though he was actually fine, and she didn't need to do anything.
Yeah.
He was just like up and about. Hey, let's talk about the call to action at the end of episode 2, where so in addition to whatever her mom's name is, I forget, the Annihilator. So her white whistle gets sent up. And like this kindly old black whistle guy, whose name I forget, he's the one who brought it up. But with him, he brought a message from her and the whistle, and just like a bunch of information and shit. And so by the end of episode 2, after like the elders, which I love that they like don't even let her see the shit at first. They have to like process it and make sure there's nothing like, I feel like that's real like corporatocracy, being like, we got to analyze this shit, make sure there's nothing dangerous, make sure that we scrape everything valuable from it first. You can look at it once
and she
we're done with
completely
it.
Understands that. She knows how the society works and is a part of it and has no complaints. Like, this is how she was raised. She's a part of this society.
It's it feels so organic. There's no like, oh, I'm the rebel. No, I'm going to change the system. Nah, fuck off. But at the end, so when she finally gets to see it, she comes in, and of course they see like the drawing of a robot dude who looks just like Gel or Gare.
Yeah.
Leg. His name's like Leg. I keep wanting to say
Regu.
Leg.
Ragu.
Yeah,
Regu.
Ragu.
Yeah.
Ragu. Hey, about it, Ragu.
And by the way, like, also we have to appreciate the fact that like they've done such a good job of hiding this kid's identity. Like, he is that robot, but nobody knows that but them, because like they just completely hid his identity. And like, it's in a clever way where like when you think about it, nobody would know. Like, why would anybody think, like, even the guy at the school who like admits him into the orphanage, he sees that he has a robot hand, and like, because this is a fucked up world where of course there'd be little orphan kids with robot hands, he's just like, yeah, okay, as long as you have good grip, that's all that matters.
I love that he like checked his grip more than anything else. That's such like a utilitarian, just like, okay, can you do the job? Then you're okay. Like, I don't give a fuck about you if you're an orphan if you can't do the work. But shout outs to that guy for being like the coolest guy and like a nice mentor guy. Yeah.
He's a good mentor guy, but he is also the dumbest man alive. Like, consistently, they fuck with him so easily.
Well, yeah.
Like, they lose. And honestly, I like it, because at first I was thinking, like, it's a little plot devicey that they get away from him, like, every 5 seconds. But it happens so many times just in episode 1 and then continues to happen that I really got the impression he is just like not attentive. And I think that makes sense, because this is a dude who's got like all these kids he has to survey, and they're all up to mischief all the time, and like he just doesn't like care to understand them. Like, there's a scene where he comes into the room and he like discovers the electric chair, and he says like, oh, this must be Shiggy's doing. I really don't get that kid. He doesn't try to like process it or understand it deeper. He's just like, oh, Shiggy, what a fucking weirdo. Like, he just, that's how they get away with all this, is that this guy just like doesn't think about it because he has to deal with this shit constantly and he doesn't want to be bothered.
That's true, but I got the feeling in episode 3 that he knew what was going on, and at least that time he was just letting them go. He wasn't going to stand in their way. I was actually on the fence. I'm not really sure which way it went. I don't
think he would have let them go if he had known. I don't think he would have.
I mean, because there's the setup where, like, he was the student of the girl's mom, of the Annihilator.
Right.
And so, like, he's got this connection with her. So I felt like maybe what they were going for was that's why he's letting her go, because he understands that, oh, it's your mom. She was my hero.
I think they would have given more of a hint if that was the case.
That's quite
possible. I really think they duped him. I mean, this is the way this show is, like, kind of dark in a way. I don't see him being, like, I see it being more like they just got one over on everybody. Like,
it'd be
these
very
kids
like
are
typical anime for him to be like, okay, wink, I'll let you go this time.
Exactly.
But so I see what you're saying. Maybe I'll read the manga and like compare it and see what it was like in that. But so about the scene here. So like with the message, they see like these robot drawings that Regu sees, and so clearly, and this came from the Abyss, obviously, like the 7th layer or whatever, where the mom had been down to. So he's getting a little bit like, oh my God, what does this mean? Does this mean there's people like me down there? So he's getting his thing going. And then of course there's that message that says, from the bottom of the netherworld, I'll be waiting for you.
Right.
And that was another chill kind of moment. I'm just
Here's some important things. First of all, I'm very glad that they were ambiguous about who that was addressed to.
Me too.
Because, like, it's assumed by the girl that it's addressed to her, and hey, maybe it was addressed to her.
Dude, I
but
love
they
that about
don't
this
say
whole.
that.
I love that they frame this whole package like it's clearly set up in the dialogue that like the girl is like interpreting it as a letter to her,
Yeah.
but like there's no specific mention of her whatsoever,
Right.
and it's all these drawings of monsters and shit.
Yeah, and like, I love that when it comes back to them, and like, there's descriptions of what the monsters are, like that her mom had written and stuff. And when the girl says, "Oh my god, this world building tidbit is so fucking good," because when she's explaining that the balloons like rarely reach the surface, she's like, "Yeah, usually they probably like," she's just speculating. She doesn't
Right.
even know this, but she's like, the White Whistles probably send up like 100 balloons, knowing that most of them won't make it, and try to make one to the surface. And she's like, you'll notice that the message was written really hastily, which we couldn't have known because it's written in an alien language,
Right.
you know. But like, she points out, yeah, it was obviously written like it, you know, hastily, because she probably scrawled out like 20 of them and sent them all. And it's such a
That's
good
just another
fucking
layer of
world-building
realism.
tidbit.
Just adding a
Yeah.
little more believability to the story.
The
which is great.
verisimilitude of this
yes.
story, of a show about a town surrounding a big fucking hole that just goes down. And that's the plot of this show. There's a town surrounding a big fucking hole, and this girl's gonna go down the hole.
Yeah.
And yet they've built such a fucking breathing world around it. It's unbelievable.
I
that they did
absolutely
that
love it.
well.
There's love pouring from every facet of the show, and I couldn't be more excited about it. And the fact that this isn't just like a lazy adaptation, they're really going the extra mile to make everything fucking gorgeous.
Yeah.
They're killing it. They're killing it with this shit.
Another detail I love, the kids, they just kind of work like all these weird odd jobs around town. Like, they're not just abyss divers. They also like work for the festival when that's going on.
Right.
We see Regu like doing the confetti and stuff. And there's a scene where they're working for like this woman they call Auntie at like her shop, and there's this fucking great shot of Regu just like blasting his arm to grab this thing while nobody's looking, and pulling it back. And the shot is so well timed. This show is fucking beautiful. It's like the best looking show I've seen all year. You know,
Agreed.
Oh god,
There's no question.
I want more. I want more.
Let me see. What I'm just skimming through episode 3. So we haven't really talked much about the relics themselves. I'm wondering if there's going to be some extra significance to even these like cheapo relics they find near the surface.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what the fuck that squishy one was there. It's you know, everything about like the relics and the bodies of the prayer guys. It's and the clearly magical existence of the abyss. It's just all so intriguing, and honestly, my favorite touch is those prayer guys. What the fuck are they? How'd they get there? Why are they all dead and buried? God, I want to know.
Consider the fact that like even stuff like the fucking Nat literally says like these treasures are junk, but even junk sells for high prices overseas.
Yeah.
So like, as a member of this town, finding this stuff means nothing, but it still is like this incredibly expensive shit. Like, really, these orphan kids need to wise up and like pocket 3 of these, get on a ship to America and sell that. I don't know if this is on Earth or whatever, but like, you know, they could set a life for themselves just by collecting these relics and not giving them to the orphanage. But
they're just so indoctrinated, you know.
Yeah, well, because they want to be able to go further down the abyss. They want to one day be able to travel even farther and get better treasures, you know.
Just like a fucking video game.
But the fact that when Regu's like checking out the squishy things and he's like so excited about them, and I really wanted to know what those do. Like, I really felt like maybe they would do, like, maybe they're useless to Nat, but to Regu they would have something that he could use them for as a robot.
I was thinking.
You know?
I think we might get more on that later. It felt like they were building to that.
Yeah, because he seemed to imply that he wanted to like take one for himself. So maybe he will now that they're just abandoning the orphanage, you know.
Yeah,
we'll find out what they do.
I mean, now it's every man for himself as they're going down there, and they're gonna. I'm sure that the relics will be relevant to do something.
Yeah. And I really want to emphasize for our audience, because I know there's some people who are going to be like, you guys have extrapolated so much from this, and a lot of what we're saying will not happen. Like
Sure.
we've said, we have come up with too many ideas for all of them to be used. But
That's
what does
true.
it say about this show that it presents so many possibilities you can dream about, so much that you can imagine will happen, so much that you can read into this world, because it's so alive that every little detail feels like it could be relevant, you know?
Yeah, man. My only fear is that, like, in the future, I am let down by, like, future civilizations or like, layers that they encounter not being as, like, wonderfully developed and thought out as the original. I mean, I don't expect any of them to, like, be on the level of the surface town. But just, like, and the fact that they even did this much preparation tells me a lot about what I can expect for, like, the thought that's gone into each of them as they go down. So, you know, I'm pretty damn optimistic about what we're going to find as we keep going.
I can't. They managed to make a scene that, like, on the one hand, you could think of it as exposition, but it was really a hype building scene, which is just the part where the kid looks at the map and just tells them what each layer is supposed to be in very vague terms.
That was
and,
like the most orgasmic moment of the entire thing.
Oh,
Because
it
I'm
was
just
so good.
I'm getting the information I fucking crave, and I want
Yeah.
it so bad.
And
It
you're
just
just-
whet my appetite.
It's just a little bit.
Yeah.
And it makes you, but, like, then it really expands your mind, because you're like, okay, I want to know what that looks like.
Yeah.
Like, wait, it's what's down there, you said? I need to process that. I need an image that I can associate with that, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, it's fucking genius.
Everything about the way they structure, the way things get more fucked up as you go down deeper, and, like, the differences between the layers and the new things you can expect to encounter, just, it's doing everything right in setting us up to get hyped to see what the fuck's going on.
And I want to emphasize this as well. This is this is just purely good writing and craft of a show. There is nothing thematic here, like, that we're way into. Like, we're not into this because of some weird personal, like, you know, you want Starfleet and this show represents Starfleet or something.
It's true.
There's no, like, waifu. There's no one I'm in love with in this show. Like, you know, my other favorite show from this year is Maid Dragon. And, like,
Right.
so much of what I liked about Maid Dragon was very personal. It's like, this character reminds me of myself, and this is the kind of relationship I wish I had, and this is my favorite color palette. Like, this show has none of that. It's just purely good.
Yeah.
It's just so well written and so well animated and scored and crafted that it makes me fucking ecstatic. So, like, that's why I think I'm more hyped for this than I've been for anything else, because this is just a purely good show, and I just want to know what it has to show me. I just want to know. I just want to know what it's got in store. I don't care if it appeals to me at all. I just want to know.
I couldn't agree more. It really is video gamey in that sense, where it's just, it's created this world for you. Like, there's X number of levels to explore. Get the fuck in there, guys. Go find out the secrets. Go explore and see what's down there. I can't wait. I cannot fucking wait.
All right, that's all I've got to say. We've ran for an hour and 10 minutes, so I'm ready to wrap this up.
Sick. All right.
All right. See you next week, everybody. We're fucking really excited. And,
I'm stoked to be back, people. You should go watch this fucking show if you haven't. Don't just listen to us. This really
a
is
show
better.
We want you to watch and listen to our podcast.
Absolutely. Like
a show that's better than the podcast we're doing about it, which we couldn't say about Aramanga Sensei.
Very true. You know, it's kind of like the show me and Hypocrite do, the Podcast, where we hope people will read, and then we can kind of theorize and speculate and plot what's going to happen next. That's what everybody should be doing with this shit, because this is too good to just hear us jack-offs talk about it.
All right, see you next week.
Bye-bye.